Hi class, this is your instructor Megan, and in this video I want to talk to you about user requirements definition. In Brad's video you learned about what user requirements are. I want to get you started on defining user requirements for your own project. So there's several steps to defining user requirements, and I'm going to walk you through each one. The first thing you need to do, step number one, explain your usability goals and your user experience goals. So what are your usability goals? I think this is confusing because when we talk about usability goals, we typically talk about a website or a single design. And the 6 usability goals, which you can revisit your reading from 2 weeks ago if you forget, are safety, memorability, learnability, efficiency, effectiveness, and utility. And when we talk about those usability goals, we're typically talking about how usable something is. So how learnable is the thing you made? How memorable is the thing you made? How effective is the thing you made in helping people actually do what they're supposed to be doing? If you're making an app that helps people find locations, how effective is what you made in actually helping people find locations? How safe is the thing that you made? So I think it's a little confusing to then take those goals and apply them to an entire story, because we talk about those goals so much as being specific to a single design. How learnable is your website? How memorable is your website? But when we're talking about usability goals for a project, we're talking in a little bit of a different sense. We're talking in a more exploded sense of usability goals. So for example, if we go back to Stop Mittens, which is my fake example I've been using throughout the class, although I would love to make Stop Mittens at some point. This is a story whose purpose is to help people connect with and understand the pet overpopulation problem and understand what they can do to stop it. So the usability goal here is learnability. It's a teaching tool. The whole purpose of the story is to teach people why there's too many pets, why that's a bad thing, and what we can do about it. Not too many pets, too many abandoned pets, I guess. Too many animals that should be pets but instead are living on the street. So it's learnability. So my main usability goal for Stop Mittens is really learnability. I'm teaching. I want people to learn about an issue. But there's another goal here too. I don't want people just to learn about this issue. I want them to do something about it. So Stop Mittens is also about effectiveness. I want to give the audience tools for being effective animal advocates. So if you look at my example, you'll see my usability goals are learnability and effectiveness. I'm not really dealing with safety. I'm not trying to help people become more safe at doing something. I'm not trying to help people become, to remember an experience or remember an emotion. That's not really what we're doing here, but that might be what you do in your story. So what you need to do for step one is figure out, what are the usability goals really? What 2 or 3 usability goals are we focusing on? Is our story about remembering, about helping people remember an emotion or an event? If so, your usability goal is memorability. Is your story about helping people figure out how to be more effective at something? So I Love Bees was about helping people figure out how to be more effective in problem solving online. Okay, great, that's effectivity. That's your usability goal, is effectiveness. So think about what the purpose of your project is, and then what usability goal matches that. Are you teaching? Great, that's learnability. Are you getting people to remember something or think about an emotion or an event? Great, that's memorability. Are you trying to help people get better at something? Great, that's effectiveness. Are you trying to help people be more private and secure in their information and how they put it online? Great, that's safety. So tell me what the main usability goals are. The second part of this number one, explain your usability goals and user experience goals, is experience goals, and these are typically adjectives. So what do you want your experience to be like? For Stop Mittens, here's what I want. I want it to be fun. I want it to be kind of cheesy and silly and stupid and cute, but I also want it to empower people. I want people to play that narrative out and feel like, wow, that was really fun and I learned a lot and I'm going to go volunteer at my shelter. I'm going to go adopt a cat. So I want the experience to be fun, cheesy, cute, but empowering. I don't want it ever to be sad. When we're talking about animal overpopulation problems and we're talking about shelters, we're talking about millions of animals that are being put to sleep every year, and that can get really sad and frustrating. And as someone who very much believes in animal rights and has worked in animal work with animal groups like shelters and advocacy groups, it can be really frustrating. It can be really frustrating and it can be really sad. You see things that are just awful. I don't want my experience to be like that. It very easily could. I could have Stop Mittens where I constantly show people a picture of a pet and then I say it got put to sleep. Or I show pictures of pets that have been abused. Or I show pictures of pets who've lived at the shelter for 10 years. These are really sad stories, and they're true stories, and I think to an extent they need to be told, but I don't want Stop Mittens to be about that. I don't want it to be just a cry fest. I want Stop Mittens to get people to care and to get them to feel positive and feel like they can really do something. I don't want them to just feel depressed and feel like everything's terrible. So user experience, pull out your adjectives. Is your experience fun, cheesy, cute, and empowering like mine is? Or is yours scary, frustrating, confusing, mysterious? You choose. You tell me what your user experience is like. That's your first step. Now, based on that, you're going to select some sites to study. I think this is a little hard to make the connection between number 1 and number 2, but here's what the connection is. You have usability goals and you have user experience goals. You need to go out and find sites that have the same usability goals and the same user experience goals. So if I'm trying to teach people about pet overpopulation, I definitely want to go look at a site that teaches people about pet overpopulation. If I want to have a cheesy, cute, and fun experience, I want to go find a pet site that's cheesy, cute, and fun. So I want to show you the 5 that I've selected for this study, and I want to explain why. The first is the Humane Society of Indianapolis, and I've chosen this because it's teaching exactly what I want to teach, and it's very empowering. In fact, if you see on this picture, they list 5 ways to help animals. Make a donation, volunteer, give something for the wish list, become a foster family, and spread the word. So by looking at this site, I can learn about how I also might teach people and empower people. Alleycat.org, Alley Cat Allies, is a organization based out of Washington, D.C. that promotes trap, neuter, and release. This is where you trap stray animals, usually cats, in this case cats. You neuter them and you return them to the streets because if you just take them off the street, other cats will move in on their territory and you'll just end up trapping, killing, trapping, killing, trapping, killing. If you trap and you put the cats back, those cats will keep that area. They'll keep other cats out of it, but they won't have babies. So for like 10 years, no new cats will come in. You know, that's, some will, but it's better than trapping, killing, trapping, killing. So this is an organization that has put together some really empowering and teaching assets. So this is a PDF that teaches you about the importance of spaying and neutering, and it teaches you about the pet overpopulation problem. It even has videos, it has text, it has like little checklists of things that you can do to help animals. So again, I want to teach and empower about animals. This site teaches and empowers about animals. So this is a great site for me to look at. Icon has Cheeseburger. I'm going to pull this up a little bit so you can see this vine with this dog, because it's hilarious. My user experience goals include fun, cheesy, and cute. When we're talking about animals, there's nothing more fun, cheesy, and cute than Icon has Cheeseburger. So I'm going to go to the site and I want to try to understand, how is this fun? How is this cheesy? How is this cute? I am determined to make this vine play so that you can see it. I don't think I can. My computer's really slow. There we go. It's still, we'll come back to this one. Another thing that I want to do with my story is I have a villain, Mittens. And Mittens is a maniacal, crazy person in the form of a cat. And so one thing I want to do with my site is with my story is I want to expose people to kind of the idea of taking things too far. And so Mittens is going to take things a little too far. So I'm going to go to a site that has a manifesto, that has an agenda and a point of view, and I'm going to try to understand how do they give that point of view? How do they give that agenda? And this is an interesting site because they have a video that explains their manifesto. They have text that explains it. They have an about section. And at the bottom, they have different ways to sign up. So if I'm thinking about having a maniacal cat, I want my maniacal cat to do these same kind of things. This site gets people on board with a video, text, and social media. So I want to get people on Mittens' side with video, text, and social media. So do you see how I'm kind of picking these sites apart and I'm trying to understand how are they doing what they're doing? How is this site a manifesto? And then I want to do the same things with my manifesto for Mittens. My last site is dosomething.org because I have to have a hero who's going to battle Mittens. And again, my user experience is empowering. My usability goal is learnability. I want people to learn about the problem and then empower themselves to do something about it. And that's exactly what dosomething.org does. Dosomething.org is all about figuring out what you're passionate about, learning about the problem, and finding a way to solve it. So I'm going to look at this site and I'm going to figure out how does this site empower people? Does it use videos? Does it use social media? Does it have forums? Does it have text? Does it have meet the expert or something like that? What is this site doing in order to be empowering and to teach people? I want to do those same kind of things in my story. So these are the sites that I've chosen. Still can't get the dog to work, sorry. You'll have to just go to icanhas.cheeseburger.com on your own. And I'm going to identify these sites and I'm going to provide the URLs here in step 2. In step 3, I'm going to put these sites in front of people. So I can look at the sites and learn a little bit about what they do, and I can sort of assess them myself and say, oh, look, dosomething.org is empowering because it asks people to participate, because you can sign up, because you can make a pledge. Oh, look, I Can Has Cheeseburger is cute because there's pictures everywhere and video and short GIFs, and it's cheesy because everything has silly captions. I can do that too. But beyond that, I want to see what the users are doing. It's not just about how I feel about these sites, it's about what the users do. So each one of you on your team is going to take your sites and you're going to put them in front of users. So put those sites in front of 5 to 10 users. Each one of you should do that while they use it. Have them look around. And what I want you to do is write down their behavior. What do they do with this site? When someone gets to dosomething.org, where do they click? Do they pick a cause? Do they then pick a time and then pick a type? Or do they just scroll all the way to the bottom and go down here? Do they skip these? These are all staff picks on projects people have done. Do people go look at these? If they do look at them, do they sign up? What's going on here? How about I Can Has Cheeseburger? What do people, oh, it's frozen still. What about, there we go. What do people do when they get here? Do they just watch the videos or do they click on the most upvoted? Do they click on featured? Do they share this page? Do they immediately go to Facebook and post something from the page? You want to write down the behaviors. What are people doing? What do they click on? What do they not click on? What do they look at the most? What do they not look at? Because this is going to help you. If I want to make something that's fun and cheesy and silly, like I Can Has Cheeseburger, and I show this site and I see that nobody looks at most upvoted or featured, I don't need to have those things because people don't use them anyway. So you want to put these in front of people and see what they do. Now you also want to ask questions while people are using these. If someone immediately clicks on about, they go to the page, they go to dosomething.org, and they immediately click on about, ask them about it. Hey, I see that you clicked about. Why did you go there? What did you think you would find? If you find that someone looks at the site and they're kind of like, what do you want me to do? I don't know. Am I supposed to click something? Why did you give this to me? Don't tell them. Say something like, well, I want to know what you think the site is. What does the site look like to you? And they'll say, oh, it looks like it's an animal site. You could say, yeah, what makes you think it's an animal site? Oh, it's got animals everywhere. So I think one issue with these interviews is you guys tend to use your friends, which is okay. You're going to use people you know. I understand that. But they're going to look at you and they're going to say, what do you want me to do? Why are you showing me this? Don't tell them. Don't say, I need you to click around. Just say, well, I just want to know what you think this site is. What do you think it's for? What do you like about it? What makes you think it's for that? What would you click? Where would you go? I just want to see you use it. Based on your discoveries in both you looking at the sites and your interview subjects looking at the sites and talking about them, I want you to determine what you saw on these sites and what users did that you can use in your story. That's what the user requirements list really is. So looking at do something, I see that sign up is pretty much everywhere. So that's probably a requirement I want to have as well. I need some kind of sign up so that people can follow my story. So I'm going to then write these requirements into my assignment. And you're going to write it in this format. You're going to write these tables. So I want to look at requirement statement number 3. Let's actually do let's do this first one, helping people learn about the pet overpopulation problem. Let's look at my first requirement, my statement number 1. In the left-hand column here, you're just telling me what your project needs to do. It's not specific to any site or asset. This isn't like we need to have Twitter or we need to have a web page from Mittens. It's what you're trying to do with your project. So one thing that I want Stop Mittens to do is to help people learn about the pet overpopulation problem and what they can do about it. And then based on the sites that I looked at, I can come up with some media assets that are going to do that. So one thing that I saw in the Alley Cat Allies piece that I thought was great, as well as the Humane Society piece, is just a list of links on where to learn more about this problem and what to do about it. So my media asset to achieve this requirement is a links list. And then I'm going to describe what that is. So links list, okay, what is that? Well, I want to have a list of links where you can learn more. Now, there's a couple things that I think are confusing about the requirement statement. The first is in that column 1, identifying the usability goal and the user experience goal, and the second is that column 4. I feel like media asset and description are pretty straightforward. So let's look at the first column. Again, this is something your project needs to do. Help people learn about pet overpopulation and what they can do about it. What usability goal does that meet? Well, it's learnability, because people are learning here. But it's also efficiency, because I want to make sure that they can learn it really, really simply. Oh, I'm sorry, effectiveness is what that should say. I want to make sure that they can learn it really easily so that they can learn to be effective. Now, the user experience goal for this helping people learn is actually empowering. So this isn't so much fun or cheesy or cute. This is empowering. I might have another requirement later that is cheesy and cute. So how do I help people learn about this and empower themselves? Well, links list, description. Now that fourth column is confusing, I think, because it's kind of like a free space. It's entirely possible that you'll have media assets that don't have anything in the fourth column. So if you look here, you'll see additional requirements. It's blank for these last few media assets. And that's okay. That's okay. All of these media assets in this table, the social media sign up, the list of steps, the animated GIF, the paragraph, the links list, those are all helping people learn about pet overpopulation. So those are all ideas I have on what I can do to teach people. On the right side, it's just additional pieces. So I don't really need a further explanation of my animated GIF. I don't need a further explanation of my list of steps. Additional requirements here, it's broken into 4 categories: social, tech, environmental, and organizational. So sometimes your media asset needs a little bit more explanation because you have a social issue or a tech issue or an environmental issue or an organizational limitation. So let me go through and explain each one of these. A social additional requirement would be if you need some extra information about how people are going to make this social. So yes, I want a links list, but here's the thing. This is supposed to be an empowering requirement. If I just put a links list, it's not that empowering. What's going to make it more empowering is if I let people add their own links. So not only do I have a links list, but in my additional requirements, I want to specify it's not just a list. Anyone can edit the list and add to it, so it has a social component. Now, this media asset does not have tech, environmental, or organizational limitations, but let me explain each one. A tech limitation would be if you're literally limited by technology. Maybe you want to have an animated GIF, but your video, you have to keep it short. An animated, here's an example. If you want to make an animated GIF for a phone, you can't make it very long because phones don't load GIFs very well. So a tech limitation for your animated GIF might be something like make sure the file size is small and make sure the GIF is short so people can watch it on a phone. An environmental limitation is a limitation of physical space, and let me give you an example for that. Maybe in order to help people learn about pet overpopulation and what they can do, my media asset is an event, a live event. And keep in mind, you are required to have a live event. So I should see live event on media assets somewhere. But I have some environmental limitations. I don't want to, say, have my live event in somebody's basement. Because who is going to go to that? I'm not going to go to some stranger's basement. Not going to happen. So an environmental limitation of my live event might be something about the physical space. It needs to be outside in a public space. That's something I need to note in additional requirements. Organizational are limitations set by the client. You're really not going to have these. So if you're making this for an organization, if I were making this for the ASPCA and they told me we don't want to have any links to our competitors, then under additional requirements, I might write organizational : no links in the list can be from competitors. Does this make sense? These are additional requirements that go along with your media asset. So yes, I have a links list, but if I have a social limitation, a tech limitation, a physical space limitation, or an organizational limitation, I need to note it here. In this case, I only have a social limitation, which is I want people to be able to log in and add to the list themselves, so I need to note that. And so for every media asset here, I need to kind of explain what it is. But all of these media assets, the media sign up, the list of steps, the animated GIF, the paragraph, the links list, they're all supporting this one requirement. So this table is one requirement. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 media assets, but it's just one requirement. So I want to make that clear because that I think sometimes is confusing. So my second requirement is that not only do I want to teach people about pet overpopulation and what they can do about it, but I want to teach people about Mittens Manifesto and why that's wrong. Mittens kind of takes, it's like X-Men, like Magneto, like Mittens takes this fight for cats too far and he becomes a jerk. And so I want people to learn about overpopulation, but I want them to learn kind of about balance and I want them to learn that they can't run up and down the streets and call everyone with an unspayed cat a jerk, because that's what Mittens is going to do. So I need people to be able to see Mittens Manifesto and see why he's an extremist. And how am I going to do that? Well, pictures of cats. I want to have cats that are like propaganda pictures. I want to have a downloadable flyer for Mittens that's like a propaganda flyer that users can paste all over their neighborhood to get people interested. I need some text explaining his manifesto. I want him to have a logo. I want him to have a logo that's like very negative and extremist. and I want to have social media signups so that people can hear his extremist rants on Twitter and Facebook and all that. So what you're doing here is coming up with what your project needs to do. These are just 2 requirements. You need 18 more, but I think you can get there. Just think about what you need to do. If you're teaching, what kinds of things do you need to teach about? If you are creating an experience that is fun, how do you make it fun? So my 3rd requirement statement might be make the project fun and engaging and silly. And then in my media assets, I'll explain how I might do that. So funny cat memes, let people post pictures of their own cats, things like that. If you have any questions this week, please feel free to contact me. I would be glad to take a look at your requirements as you're making them and give you some advice. It's a hard assignment because it's the first time you're working with requirements, but it's a necessary assignment because at the end of it, you're gonna know exactly what you need to make, what goes in it, what assets you have to make, and what they're going to be like. You also are going to do this assignment again in 495, so it's imperative that you understand it now. So do your best, let me know if you're stuck, and I look forward to seeing your requirements this Friday.